Take this tool out of your trunk where the tire tools are, where the jack is. Just grab these caps, slide them off if you have them. And then if you have a wheel lock, use the wheel lock key that's also in the trunk. Take a 17mm socket, take these lug bolts out. When you get to the last one, hold the tire on so it doesn't fall. Take the bolt out, and then grab the tire and slide it off. Now take this ball joint nut off, use an 18mm wrench, and just loosen it up. Now we've bottomed out where we can't go any further because it's hitting the axle. So we'll take these bottom nuts off next. Use a 16mm socket. Take these 3 out. I'm going to slide this down. You can use a pry bar if you need to. Now I'm going to use a pickle fork and separate the lower ball joint from the knuckle. There's different tools you can use to do this. There we go, that popped off. Let's see if we can get the rest of the nut off. And what's happening here is the lower stud is spinning. So what we can do is try to get some locking pliers on there. I'm just going to take this boot off, just use a pick. Try to take this ring off first. Get that off. You can slice the boot if you want to. Going to make it easier to get the vice grips in there. And just rip that outside. Alright, now lock on there real good. And loosen up the nut the rest of the way. If you're struggling to get that nut off, like we are, then you might want to go a little further. We're going to take the outer tie rod end off. Just use a 19mm socket. Take this nut off. You can use a special tie rod tool, or you can just take a hammer and release it like that. Just don't want to mess up the boot with the tie rod end. Use a 24mm 12-point socket. Take this bolt out. I'll just thread this in a couple threads. Just give it a tap, just to loosen the axle up. Should be able to slide the axle out. And there we go, set that aside. Now I can get on there with a swivel socket. And just try to take it off. There we go. Slide the nut off and take the ball joint down. So you can take the new ball joint, and the new ball joint stud actually has a place for an Allen key. So find an Allen key that fits and slide this in position and take the nut, put the nut on. You can take a 19mm wrench, preferably a ratchet wrench, and then take that Allen key. Get that started, and you can tighten this down. All right, snug that up the best you can. The ball joint really didn't move that much, which is good. It was easy. And torque this nut to 44 foot-pounds. Now we can line the axle back up. Slide it back in. I'll just line up the lower control arm with the ball joint while we're doing that, just so it's easier to tighten everything down. Just be careful, watch your fingers. Get the studs to line up. There we go. And the tie rod as well. The tie rod nut on. Now we want to torque this nut to 14 foot-pounds and then an additional 90 degrees. If you don't have a torque angle meter, just do the best you can. Put the lower nuts on. Snug these up. Torque these to 44 foot-pounds. Put the new axle bolt in. Snug it up. I'm going to put a couple of the lug bolts in to prevent this from spinning. Now you want to torque this bolt to 51 foot-pounds. And then after that, you want to tighten it an additional 90 degrees. If you have a torque angle meter, use that. If not, do the best you can. Now reinstall the wheel. Put the lug bolts in. Now I'm going to torque these lug bolts to 89 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. And just go around again, double check. Take the wheel lock off and reinstall the caps. Just line them up. Make sure you put your tools back in the trunk. After you've done this job, make sure you bring the vehicle to a local garage and have it aligned to make sure you don't have premature tire wear.